Hey fam, Hervin here. So should I buy a condo or a single family property as my first home? In this video, we'll go over the criteria I would use to break this down if I was in the market for my first home all over again. And we'll go over why I really believe this question is misguided and what the main advantages are of condo ownership versus the disadvantages, and we'll do the same thing for single family homes. And finally, we'll go through the back end and we'll go through some of the things that I would consider when it comes to resale or exit strategies for both of them. But before I get to that, I just want to say thank you for all the DMs and the comments and the likes that you guys have sent our way. If you find this first time homebuyer series valuable, please do leave us a comment, a like, and consider subscribing to the channel if you want to see more content like this. So let's get started.
Money does not possess me. Money? What is it, money? Somebody gonna have to tell the truth, and I'm gonna tell it.
Let's look at the part that I think makes this comparison more difficult than it really needs to be. Your primary home is not an investment. It's a personal use asset. It's a consumption item. It happens to go up in value, but calling it an investment if you're choosing to live in it and live in the unit is slightly misguided. I'd be more happy to defend this opinion in another video, but for now, let me explain why calling our properties investments makes condo versus single property comparisons more confusing. We first need to understand and we need to own the fact that before anything else, I'm buying a home for myself. I'm buying a home for a place to live for myself and my family, not to get an investment return, not to get an ROI. We would be all happier knowing that we are buying with the decision to focus on ourselves, our lifestyles, our wants, and our needs, our desires, not ROI. And if it happens to grow in value and gives us some decent return on capital, then woo! That's awesome, but that should not be number one on our list, not even number 2 or 3. In fact, if you're prioritizing returns and investment quality, diversification, and liquidity, you may never really buy your own home. If you were only making decisions based on spreadsheets and economic returns, you probably won't buy a house. Most of us buy homes for a sense of peace, a sense of belonging, a sense of having roots and having a community around us, not so that we can get a percentage return. So before you make the choice, understand that this is about intangibles. It's a life decision and not purely a financial decision. I know this part seems unnecessary, but we need to discuss what a condo is. Let's look at condos, and you need to understand what that means. A condo is a form of legal ownership. It's not a building type. When you buy a condo, you own the unit and the share of common properties or common elements of the condo building or the condo complex. When people hear of condos, they typically think of apartment style condos or high rises, but there are various types of condo buildings. There's of course the high rise or apartment style, there's low rise or buildings under 4 stories, there's duplexes and there's triplexes, and guess what? Row homes and townhomes could also be a form of condos. So it gets really confusing. For the rest of this video, we're gonna be talking about condos with the idea that we're discussing high rises or buildings that are 4 stories and above. All right, so let's talk about the pros for condo living. I really look at it as price, flexibility, convenience, ease of maintenance, and sometimes added security. First is the price and other cost savings. Because of the work from home orders and the demand for condos going down in the downtown areas in 2020 and 2021, prices are definitely lower right now, but some experts say that this could be reversing again. But before all of this, even before the lockdowns and the stay-at-home orders, condos were usually cheaper per square foot of living space compared to single-family homes. Just look at this. If we search for a 2-bedroom, 2-bath in Calgary today, we're gonna be looking at 200s, 240s, 250s, maybe 300, depending on the amenities and how new the building is. But if I toggle that filter to only show single detached properties, that pops our pricing up to the 400s just to stay close to the downtown core. The next cost saving is utilities and insurance. You would typically pay less because with a condo, you're only really worried about your property within the four walls and the liability to insure. The second advantage for owning a condo is location. If location and proximity is important to you, then condo ownership may be the way to go. In areas like Vancouver, Toronto, where it's really a high population density for metropolitan areas, condos might be your only choice anyway for the lifestyle you want, and it's definitely gonna be in demand because of how close you can be to work, restaurants, bars, clubs, and arenas if you're into that. In general, condos are constructed for convenience and access to key locations for work, school, and play. They are also typically planned around major transportation hubs and access points. So if you want to walk everywhere or bike everywhere, condos may be better suited for you. The third pro for condos is lower maintenance and security. Typically with a condo, you own the unit from the drywall in, sometimes even from the paint in. So common areas such as hallways, lobbies, parkades, the lawn, and the roof and external walls, that's all handled by the condo corporation. Of course, there's a fee to that, and let's discuss that later. But this means that if you wanna have a lifestyle where you never have to shovel a driveway in -40 weather, consider that. This means also not worrying about the pipes freezing over if you're gone for 3 months in the winter, or maybe grass overgrowing in the summer if you take an extended vacation, acting as a beacon saying, hey, criminals, come here, rob me because I'm empty. That's just not a worry with condo living. You really turn the key, lock the door, and you can leave. You won't have to worry about hailstorms or windstorms peeling some of the shingles off the house and siding as well. Again, anything outside of your unit, it's gonna be maintained by the condo corporation. The fourth pro is the amenities. If you like having a gym or a pool in the same building, a condo may be what you're looking for. If you want to swim and work out every day without leaving your home, some apartments have this available already. The fifth pro on my list is the condo fee. I know this is surprising, but in my opinion, this is both a pro and a con, and let me tell you why I highlight this as a pro. Some condo fees already include utility as a portion of the fee payment, which, as far as I'm told, is cheaper when it comes to heating and cooling. And that makes sense if you're in an inner unit where there's 2 neighbors above and below you and on the sides. So you really only have one outside wall exposed to weather. But to me, the biggest pro of having a condo fee is a part of the fee that you're paying already includes the reserve and maintenance fund contribution. At least it should. This means if properly managed, there should already be a budget available for repairing normal wear and tear, which you're gonna be responsible for when you own a single family property. Now let's talk about the cons or the drawbacks of condo ownership. Number 1, before anything else, to me, is the extra layer of governance. When you buy a condo, you have to adhere to bylaws. So to me, that's having another set of rules, deciding how you can live your life, whether you're allowed pets, whether you can make certain renos, whether you can paint the door a certain way. To me, that's a big con. It's another set of rules and another set of leaders to live with or work with. If you buy a condo, I would strongly suggest that you need to have an understanding of where things are at when it comes to the bylaws. It might even be wise to get involved with a condo board, but that's another task and it's another job that I don't want to deal with. Next is the lack of flexibility. If you want to renovate or customize how you live, there could be restrictions on that. So you can't go all HGTV on it and go all open concept and whatnot. Next is noise. This is a real thing for me. I didn't think I would grow up and grow old liking quiet, but I actually like quiet. I moved my home office to the basement, which is what you guys see here, so I can have fewer interruptions and less noise. You guys have no idea how many videos I had to scrap because the mic was picking up some Tagalog TV in the background. Regardless of how the soundproofing is done and how the framing is done with a condo, if you have neighbors both sides, below and above you, there's gonna be some noise seepage. This means you're gonna hear babies crying potentially, feet stomping, and maybe your neighbors playing video games until 6 a.m. Another thing to consider is the condo corporation is a separate entity which can be sued. When you buy a single family property, let's say there was some slip and fall or an accident and there was somebody that was injured and the previous owner is gonna be responsible for that. The liability follows them. When you buy a condo, you're also buying into the liabilities or the losses that the condo corporation has incurred even before your time. So this is a bit of a caveat emptor. Make sure your realtor reviews any loss assessments or lawsuits potentially to the corporation before you buy it if there's one that's around. I'm sure there's gonna be some legal requirements for the seller to disclose that, but it doesn't hurt for you to have that understanding that when you're buying into the corporation, you're buying the whole corporation, if that makes sense. So let's move on to the dreaded condo fees. Most people already consider this, I think. Condo fees can go up unpredictably, and that's typically from poor management. So be sure you understand the governance and the current financials before you purchase. Make sure that the fee that you're paying for is worthwhile, because I've seen condo fees go up by a few $100 for no reason aside from the condo board just not accounting and mismanaging the property. So let's move on to single family homes. There's a lot of pros, there's also cons, but the first pro for me is flexibility. You can do what you want with it as long as you follow city bylaws. You can paint it flamingo pink today or neon green tomorrow if that's what you want to do. You can rent out a portion of the home, the basement, or you can live in the basement and rent the upper floor. You can get a dog or a cat or a tiger. Just kidding, don't get a tiger. The point is, you don't need the condo board to give you the okay. You can go all out on your reno, you can go all HGTV on that thing and make it your dream home.
2 words, Property Brothers. And they would say 2 words, open concept. So 4 words, Property Brothers, open concept.
Just the way you want it. Next is the value or financials, I suppose. Historically speaking, single family homes tend to hold their value better and appreciate better because you also own the land with it. So long term, like really long term, a single family home may be a better contributor to your wealth compared to a condo. Next is privacy. It's just more space and you have less immediate neighbors. It's gonna be a lot quieter for you too, so that's a big pro for me. You can have the quiet you need if that's what you want. No stomps from the neighbor above you. Usually you'd have at least a few feet between you and the neighbor's walls. Of course, you can still have some obnoxious neighbors, but just how homes are built, you're gonna immediately have a noise reduction. Up next is the absence of condo fees. This is probably the biggest pro because condo fees are often seen in a negative light, but I think it's really just misunderstood. Nah, I'm just kidding. The problem with condo fees is it's easy to mismanage. See, what I'm trying to say here is that you might not be forced to pay into a reserve fund, but if you're financially responsible and you understand that those fees are there for maintenance, you could consider that when you own a single family home, you should actually be setting aside a bit of an emergency fund for your house. So those future repairs and the future maintenance that you will encounter, and you will encounter them, you should already be setting expectations that's going to be coming out of your own pocket. The benefit though of not having to pay into that fee in a mandatory way is that you're likely going to be a better steward of your finances than any third party or any condo corporation. Now let's talk about some of the drawbacks for single family home ownership compared to condos. Number 1 for me is the price. Single family homes are usually more expensive to buy into because you're also buying land, unlike apartment style condos. Number 2 is maintenance. You're going to be on the hook for mowing the lawn and shoveling in -40 weather. Minus a billion here if you're in Calgary. The furnace, the roof, external walls, that's now all your responsibility. And the bigger the home, the more house to clean. The third drawback is the cost of ownership long term. Property taxes are based on home values. So by buying a more expensive property, you're also gonna be paying a higher property tax every year. Utilities are gonna be higher, as well as home insurance costs. Fourth on my list, and last, is location. If you wanted a more affordable single-family home, you'd either end up living in a less desirable part of town, or you'd end up moving further into the newer communities. So you'd likely have to consider living in the hood or the burbs. This would add to your commute time. Now let's quickly talk about exit strategies that you can consider in the future. The exit strategy will also depend on your overall financial goals. Single family homes do tend to go up in value faster than condos do, but what if you had no intention to sell? What if you eventually wanted to become a landlord? A condo will likely be easier as a first unit to manage because you're only responsible for the inner unit, versus renting out a single family home where you're gonna be responsible for maintaining the full shebang. The turnover is likely gonna be easier for a smaller unit as well, meaning it's easier to keep it occupied. But how about resale? One thing that you need to consider about condo ownership and resale is that the condo fees can severely impact resale. See, think about it this way. If fees are mismanaged and in your unit is higher than a similar building, your unit will become less desirable. If you wanted to upgrade to a bigger home one day, as people tend to do, this is going to be heavily affected by the market. Consider that in 2020, the condo market was hammered while homes or single family homes rocketed. But when it comes to selling, in my opinion, the presentation and the upkeep of the home itself will be a bigger factor than whether it's a condo or a home, because there's gonna be a buyer for either one of them. A well-staged condo can probably outsell a disheveled and a poorly maintained home, and vice versa. If you buy into the right neighborhood, there may be consistent demand for the home or the type of home that you have. This is when a local realtor comes in. Once you've decided on the lifestyle, once you know that you really are set on a certain type of living, your realtor can help you buy the house to meet that, and will show you the potential options for resale and tenancy later on. That's why it's important to consult a realtor when you're going through this decision. So how do I decide? As I said in the beginning, it really is a lifestyle choice. To give you an example, I'm just gonna talk about myself for a second. My dining table can sit 10 people, maybe 12 if we really squeezed in. That's because my extended family is quite large and we can get pretty damn loud. My in-laws live with us and all their children want to visit, their grandchildren want to visit, their nephews and nieces want to visit. We just can't live in a condo in this season of our lives because there's always people over. Of course, that was pre-pandemic. I've also focused on making my business virtual. So 100% of my new clients in 2021 did not see me in person. So living outside of the city does not affect my work. That might not be true for you. And the thing is, for me, there might come a time when we will highly consider living by the Bow River or Princess Island Park or 17th Avenue downtown, but now we just can't do that yet. And your work situation could be entirely different from mine. You might need to travel for work all the time, so it doesn't need to be large, or you don't need to have that much space. And in your case then, it might make more sense for you to have a condo. See, if I was on the market right now and you had to force an answer from me to decide between a condo or a house, what would I choose? Neither. I'd buy a duplex. Haha, tricked you. I would probably actually buy a duplex, rent one side, but that's something that we can discuss in a later video. For now, if you found this video helpful and valuable, please leave us a like. Let us know in the comment section, actually, if we missed anything on this lists that we've compiled. Until next time, stay aware, take control. Love y'all. Peace out.